Good afternoon, church. Happy Sabbath. Happy day. We want to start our afternoon session. It will be an interactive session, a short interactive session. So make sure you grab something and take it home so that it may assist you and your neighbors and your friends and your families. Thank you for lunch. We are so grateful. It was so nice. Ilikuwa na test ingine nzuri bana, nikasikia it was so nice. So thank you so much. We are full and I'm hoping people will not sleep in the afternoon. You know, in our local village, we did not have a church. Long time ago, we used to worship under a tree. And so, one afternoon, we had eaten githeri, and now the speaker stood to do a Bible study. And just next to our church, the tree that we called our church, there was a goat, there was a sheep, I mean a sheep. Mbuzi inaitwa kondoo. Kondoo ndio sheep ama ndio goat? Ndio sheep. So there was a sheep. It was tied somewhere there. So there was a mzee who was sleeping. So he was sleeping. Alikuwa anajaribu kuchukua nap. So akilala alikuwa analala kichwa inaenda paka inaenda chini. So the kondoo ikamwangalia mara ya kwanza. Ikaangalia mara ya pili, ikaona huyu mzee ni kama ako tayari kupigana huyo. Ikarudi nyuma hivi, ikakuja na ikamgonga. Akasema huyu mzee ananifanyia hivi kila saa. Kwani so kunaweza kosa kuwa na kondoo hapa around, lakini kukuwe na kitu kingine, si ndio? So try as much as you can to be attentive. I promise I won't take long. I won't take long. So yeah. So tuombe alafu tutaanza. Tunaomba. Tunakushukuru Mwenyezi Mungu kwa kuwa umekuwa pamoja nasi kwa kipindi ya asubuhi. Tumepata mankuli ya mchana. Tunapoenda kujifunza machache kwa ajili ya afya zetu. Naomba ya kwamba utuongoze, zaidi ya yote utufundishe na tuweze kutilia maanani, iweze kutusaidia katika maisha yetu ya kila siku, na ni kwa Kristo nimeomba na kuamini. So as I promised, today let it be a unique afternoon. We are not going to read the Bible. I want us to spend some time in our health. I want us to consider mental health. So yesterday it was 10th of October. Every 10th of October, every year, we normally celebrate World Mental Health Day. So wale wako na simu, yesterday I think you saw health workers all over, mental health activists walking with placards hapa na pale saying speak out, tufunguke. Yes, if you met with them, we were just celebrating the mental health week. Before we get into what we are going to learn today, I want us to get just an overview of mental illnesses, mental health. What is mental health? Who has a definition of mental health? Who can define mental health? I said it's an afternoon session, and I want an interactive session. The faster you speak, the better for you and for me. So, who can give a definition of mental health? Anyone? Again, in adult learning, every answer is correct. So whatever answer you will say, even if it's not correct, we will just clap for you. Then we correct you later. Anyone with an attempt? I'm not seeing any hand. That means maybe all of us don't know, or we know and we our mouths are tied, we can't speak. It's allowed in adult learning also. So I will define mental health, then I will give some few examples of mental health classifications. I'll just do an overview. We will not be able to do a class. We cannot do everything in mental health now. So I'll just do an overview, a brief overview. Then we do something small, we go deep on something small, then we call it a day. So mental health is a state of complete emotional, psychological, social well-being. I said complete emotional, psychological, social well-being. So for one to be described mentally stable, there must be emotionally intelligent, there must be psychologically stable, and there also must be socially stable. If someone has the three attributes, then we describe them as mentally stable. Now, research says in every 4 people who visit outpatient clinics or hospitals for assistance, one of them suffers mental illnesses. Let me narrow it down further. Research again says that every adult in one point in life must have suffered mental illnesses. Let me prove it. We are listening, Sendio. I want us to be attentive. Let the class be interactive as much as possible. If you're having a question, don't hesitate. Raise your hand. We'll give you an opportunity so that we finish on time. Let me prove the point now. I believe in some point in life, there's a day you have been grieved. You lost your closest friends, you lost your closest family member, you lost your spouse, you lost your mother, your father. The grieving process, throughout the grieving process, mentally, 99% of the population are normally not stable. They cannot make right decision at that time. Kwa sababu their mental state is impaired because of the grieving situation they are facing at that point. Number 2, in some point in life, maybe you have lost your job. And before you get into acceptance and move on to look for another job opportunity, that period, you undergo stress. That is a mental problem. Now the problem here comes, there are so many examples I could give, but the problem here comes, the problem we think that mental illnesses or mental problems is conditions like schizophrenia. If you see a madman walking in the street somewhere in the market, then you think that is mental illnesses. Mental illness, mental disease is narrowed down to if you get angry and you're not able to control your anger, you have a mental problem. Is there anyone in the congregation who is exempted? So the research is confirmed that everyone, any adult, in one point in life, you must have suffered a mental illnesses. Okay. I want to give you a brief classification of mental illnesses, just a classification. Then I will give some few causes of mental illnesses and mental problems. Then we will look into something called the mind. There is something beautiful I want us to understand in our minds and how it influences our decision making. So mental illnesses have so many classifications. Number one, they are classified as anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders. In anxiety disorders, this is a group of people who normally experience fear and excessive anxiety. Excessive fear and excessive anxiety. And to a greater extent, they can get panic attacks. A living example, 99% of the population, if today, after this class, we say, we give exams, we say we are giving you exams and we want responses in the next 20 minutes. What do you think, what will happen here? 99% will panic, sindio? They'll tense and watakuwa na wasiwasi na kusema sasa we were not ready for the exams. And the truth is, even if you're given 2 years to prepare for a single paper, you'll never be ready. So that is the first classification. And examples of diseases, of condition, mental condition in that disease, I'll just mention 2 or 3. There is generalized anxiety disorder, there is panic disorders, PTSDs, and social phobias. Kuna watu akiwa kwa social places, social gathering, kwa church, akisimama tu hivi, jasho inatoka from nowhere, they tense, they can even fall down. It's a problem. A normal human being should not be like that. Second classification, kuna mood disorders. Mood disorders. This commonly affects the female gender. As a man, unatoka asubuhi, you go to work. Kwanza they had prepared food for you in the morning, breakfast, heavy breakfast. You take breakfast there, you leave them very, very happy. You go to work. You have conversation during the day with them. When you come back from work in the evening, you find their faces frown, they are mad at you. There is nothing you've done to them. It's a problem. They choose emotions out, they can feel bad anytime. They can, hata anaweza kasirika tu bila sababu. So, example of conditions in this category, kuna depression and bipolar mood disorders. I said, I'll just mention them. If we had time, we could dig deeper and deeper. So I'll just mention them briefly. Then we concentrate on what I wanted us to learn today. The next category is psychotic disorders. Psychotic disorders, this involve difference in brain chemicals. Normally, in a normal human brain, we have some brain chemicals that enhance our daily-to-day living. Like for example, we have chemicals in the brain that makes us feel good and happy and have pleasure. For example, there is a chemical in the brain called dopamine and another chemical called serotonin. If you have dopamine in excess, more than the required amount of in the brain, you develop a mental disorder. Hi. If you have serotonin in the brain, less than the required amount of serotonin in the brain, you develop depression. So a balance is required. It's not supposed to be too high, not supposed to be too low, but it's supposed to be within normal ranges, just minimum level for you to function normally. Next category, we have personality disorders. Personality disorders, hapa ndio tunapata sanguines, melancholic. Hiyo ni zile majina zenye zinajulikana, but they are modern names. I will not mention them because of interest of time. Now, there are other personality disorders that are normal, na kuna abnormals. So there's where we draw the line. So ikipita where we draw the line, then it becomes abnormal. If someone talks too much, like for example, if you're an outgoing person and you know, outgoing people, they can talk, they can make friends, but if you talk too much, mpaka people around you feel irritated and they feel uncomfortable being around you, then that means there is a problem. That's what we call temperance now. We need temperance in everything. If, as much as you talk too much, but there is a point you get, you utapita the expected limit, then it becomes a problem. Example, kuna borderline personalities, antisocial personalities, narcissistic personalities, and so forth. Antisocial, let me mention something about antisocial. Antisocial, if you're having an antisocial child, they like keeping to themselves. They rarely come out. You can even have a designated area for having dinner on a dining table, but they prefer putting their plate aside, they serve their meals and go to their room and eat over there. It is not normal. Human beings are created to be social beings. You need to sit around people, interact with them and talk to them, but Next is eating disorders. Eating disorders. Eating disorder, we said temperance. You're supposed to eat when you're full, you live. Sindio? Lakini people with eating disorders, he can eat when they are full, they walk out, they induce vomiting, they vomit out and come back and continue eating and eating. They get some satisfaction when they continually eat and enjoy food. There's another one, an eating disorder, another one that it mostly affects female, the ladies again. They tend to believe they are watching over their weight. They do not want to gain their weight so much. So they can eat an apple a day and stay the entire day without anything else, or even take a cup of water or an orange and stay the entire day. If you ask them the reason why they do not want to eat, they tell you they are watching their weight. It is a disorder. And normally, when you take them to check their weight and height and confirm their BMI, it's normally very, very low, which is a problem also. There is another category of trauma-related disorder. That is where we get stress, we get post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Maybe you had a post-traumatic experience, you went through a very terrible childhood experience, you were raised by a single mother, maybe who doubled up to be your father, and they had no enough to keep you to the standards of other children. Maybe while growing up, you were raised by a stepmother who took you through a traumatic experience that you have never healed, you have never let it go, never forgotten. And also maybe you got an accident, and the accident was too bad, and you were rescued, and you do not want to speak about it. It's still hurting you till today. That is traumatic related disorders. There are so many examples. We will not mention all of them. Then another one is substance use disorders. Substance use disorders. By the way, did you know that excessive alcohol intake is a mental disorder? Those who take alcohol excessively, they develop addiction. Once they develop addiction, reversing it to the other side becomes a problem. I've heard of addiction as people are addicted of Coca-Cola soda. If they don't take Coca-Cola soda in a day, they will not be fine. It's an addiction. It's a disorder. It's a mental disorder. You need to be rehabilitated. So there are so many other minor categories that I will not mention. You will allow me stop from that point. That are few major categories of mental illnesses. If we get sometime, maybe we'll have time to dig deep and get to understand maybe the causes and the rest. Now, I want to mention some few causes of mental illnesses, just some few to highlight. Mental illness is a multifactorial condition. When I say multifactorial condition, what I mean is there is no single cause that is established to have to be causing mental illness. It is so many attributes put together to that someone can develop mental illnesses. What I mean, there are precipitating factors. There are things that attribute to mental illnesses. So there is no single cause. You say, like malaria, maybe you can get malaria through mosquito bite. So in mental illnesses, it's now different. So possible causes of mental illnesses, number one, kuna biological causes. When we speak about biological causes, what I mean, when we narrow it down, we come to genetics. If you have schizophrenia in your family, maybe your great-grandfather was diagnosed with bipolar or schizophrenia, chances are very high that it might come and affect the coming generation. Maybe your child, your brother, or your next descendants, one of them might contract probability of getting mental illnesses is very high. And that one you cannot avoid. So sometimes it lies in the family. Number two, it's brain chemical imbalance that I spoke about, that I mentioned. If you have excess dopamine in your brain, then you develop a mental illnesses, mostly psychotic conditions like schizophrenia and others. Number three, infectious or brain injury. Chances are also very high if you are involved in an accident or you contacted diseases that affect the brain. Chances are very high in one point in life you can develop a mental illness, depending on where exactly you are affected. Number four, substance abuse. I am privileged to work in a mental facility, and these are statistics. 90% of the cases we admit in mental, like for example in our mental facility, are youths. And the major cause of the mental illnesses, most of them are suffering, it's attributed to substance use. And so, the youth of the church, you need to take care. Spread the gospel to your friends who are not the Seventh-day Adventists. If you can get an opportunity to share with them and encourage them and tell them the truth that the youth, 90% of the population of the patients who come to the mental hospitals are the youth. And most of their problems have been attributed to substance use. There are other psychological causes like severe emotional trauma during childhood that I spoke about, loss of loved ones. And by the way, let me mention this, it is important. Childhood experiences contribute up to 75% of your adulthood. Childhood experiences contribute up to 75% of your adulthood experiences. What I mean, chances are very high if a child went through a traumatic experience while growing up, if a child did not experience enough love from their parents while growing up, when they become adult, 90% of the population normally develop mental problems and they are normally affected. You know, African children, sijui kama Nairobi, where I was raised, African children, we acquire toxic masculinity as men. Naturally, we acquire. Kuna vitu zikifanyika, you don't cry. You lose someone, saa zingine you unaambia when they come to console you, you've lost your mom, you've lost your immediate relative, the society tells you that you know you're a boy child. If you cry, what about the women now? Unaona? So we develop, we grow, we know as men we don't cry. Someone said, when you want to cry as a man, go to your shower, cry, then take a shower, come out. You'll confuse people. They will think you are taking a shower and you cried. That is what is affecting us. So to our parents, ensure you take very good care of your children if you're able. If you have chance, if God has blessed you with one or two or more, make sure you do your best to ensure you give them the best so that if they grow up, they will never complain, or maybe if they are affected, that you were a contributing factor of the same. There are so many other causes, like social environmental causes, family conflicts, poor relationships like in marriages, poverty. Poverty is also a cause of mental illnesses. Someone can be stressed because of money to an extent that they develop serious mental illnesses. So don't think too much. In the morning, as we said, it is well. The Lord knows your struggle. So don't think so much. If you have nothing to offer to your children this evening, just pray to God and assure them that tomorrow will be fine. Don't think too much. It will affect your mental well-being. So, another important thing that I'll not fail to mention is exposure to violence or stressful life events. Parents, sometimes, I am not a parent yet, but I am privileged to have been in a setting where I see people who come to seek for assistance because of marital problems. It's normally advised, it is important, parents. Sometimes if you're having a disagreement with your husband, your wife, it's advised that if possible, keep it too far and away from your children. Because if you don't do so, it will have an impact in their lives. The impact will be so negative when they grow up. So make sure, hata kama ni kuchuna mtu, wewe enda huko kwa bedroom tu mchunane huko. Alafu mnasema kila mtu akitoka atoke kama amecheka, si ndio? Ndio wasijue mlikuwa mmepigana. So there is, I think nime mention some few causes. At least you have an overview of mental illnesses. If someone asks you a question now, you're able to respond. You are confident. At least you have an overview. So now, there is something small I want us to look at. I promised to touch something on ADHD. ADHD is a very common condition that affects most of the people of the population, but we do not know because we've not heard about it and we've not researched about it, and maybe where we were raised, it was not a big thing, but now we are in the AI era. You can go online and read more about it. So I'll do it as the last thing, but before we get there, there is something I want to speak about. Just get it right. Be attentive. And get it right now. I want to speak about the mind and decision making. The mind and decision making. There is a quote I wanted to read here. This book is called Healing Hearts and Restoring Minds. It was written by Sharon Platt McDonald. She's a psychologist, a psychotherapist. So she wrote something in Emotions, and she said, there are so many things that affect the way we think or feel about ourselves and others. The mind needs to be controlled, for it has a most powerful influence upon the health. That the mind needs to be controlled because it has most powerful influence upon the health. There is a fact I want to read here, and it says, a merry heart. Let me start from a paragraph higher. When we think positively and have a positive outlook on life, we release immune-enhancing hormones which have beneficial effects on our bodies. So, a feeling good hormones that are released when you think positively, they are called endorphins. You can go and read more about it. It makes you feel happy. It's the one that gives you pleasure. You can laugh. So the research says that positive thinkers, they give their immune ability to release hormones that they are beneficial on their bodies. Now, the human mind, I want to speak about decision making and how you can influence your mind. We don't read brains, we don't read your minds, so don't fear. Someone told me, you can read my mind. No, I can't read your mind. The only person who has the power to read your mind is Jesus Christ. We do not have the power to read your mind, but we make judgments based on what you say and maybe what you do. Then we can conclude and say, maybe you have a problem or not. So don't be worried. As long as you don't speak, we may not be able to know what you're thinking. So don't be worried. Walk with me. The human mind is divided into three. I'm not speaking about the physical. I'm speaking about how you comprehend things and make decisions. It's divided into three. There is an emotional mind, a reasonable mind, and lastly, wise mind. So, wise mind is the one that brings balance. An example. I want to bring the point home. An example. If you're an adult, then naturally you get a call of nature. You feel like you want to urinate. The other side of the mind will tell you, you have the urge of urinating. See, you can just stand here and urinate, and you finish. Then the other side of the reasonable mind tells you, no, people are here. They are seeing you. But don't urinate. You'll embarrass yourself. Now the wise mind brings the balance. It tells you, wacha ujinga. Wewe ni mtu mzima. Usijaribu kufanya makosa kama hiyo kukojoa. And it insists. And you end up kwa washroom for the call of nature. So in emotional mind, this is when your feelings control thoughts and your actions. An example again. Ukikaa hivi tu, alafu something unusual happens. Ama, let me use an example. Another different example. You're coming from work, you're tired, your boss has frustrated you the whole day. Ukiwa njiani, you're driving your car, then the man passes, na anachapa your side mirror, anavunja. What will be your immediate reaction? What will be your immediate reaction? Watu wengine watasema huyo watu wa Nduthi ndio maana hata wataendelea kwa maisha hawa. That is emotional reasoning. Yani, just out of circumstance, you react very fast. Wengine hata unashuka hapo kwa gari, unamtafuta, unataka hata kumchapa. That is emotional reasoning. Emotional mind side of you. Then, in emotional mind, you can, when you're angry, you can shout without even thinking. You shout without thinking. Ukiona wewe unafanyanga hivyo, then no, you're using the wrong side of the brain, of your mind. You need to up your game. Now, still in emotional mind, when you're sad, I'm giving examples. When you're sad and you isolate yourself, yani, because you're sad, it's common in schools. Maybe you're given a test, all of you, then you fail the test. Now because you failed the test, you want to isolate yourself. You think you're the dumbest. You don't want to associate with others. You don't want to. Then the emotional part of you is leading you. Another example. When you're happy and you make a quick decision, e.g., spending money. When you're happy and you become impulsive. Unatoka hivi unafurahi, they praise you and you end up spending the entire money that you had made. Then that, the emotional part of you, is leading you. Someone said, when you're too happy and when you're too sad, don't make a decision. Because most of the decisions that you'll make at that during those times, they will not be good decisions. Unafika hapo kwa center huko nyumbani, they praise you, wanasema wewe utakuwa hata MCA wetu, wanakupea sifa, kiongozi wanakuita. Wewe unaingia kwa mfuko unasema wapewe soda wote. It is not a wise decision. Na labda hiyo pesa ulikuwa umepanga unaenda kujenga. Sasa umeharibu pesa ya simiti 10, umewanunulia soda. Emotional mind. Haya. Reasonable mind. Let me speak something on reasonable mind. Reasonable mind, this is when you think with logic and facts, not emotions. You think with logic and facts, without emotions. Example. I'll give examples further. Example number 1. You have just received your salary. Maybe you've received 100,000. Pap. An emotional mind atasema hii mwezi nimeteseka. Kitu ya kwanza una rush very fast, unanunua nyama kwanza kilo 5 unaweka kwa fridge, unakuja unakimbia hapo, hata uendi tena, ulikuwa umezoea kununua nguo zako Gikomba, unaenda Mr Price, unaenda sasa unachomoa good one. I'm not saying it's bad to appreciate yourself, it's very good, but with a plan. So in a reasonable mind, you get your 100,000, you sit down, you come up with a budget. You say, I have earned 100,000 shillings, which I've worked hard for. I need to save 50% of the money. I need to to send 10% to my parents, or maybe my relatives, or to whoever you're sending the money to your girlfriend, to your boyfriend, for the youth. I'm not saying you'll be sending money. I'm just using an example. Then the remaining amount now for leisure, you spare some few coins for your leisure. Then you can spend the money now. For sure, I assure you, you will have used the reasonable side of the mind. Another example for students, you're studying for an exam. Then at that same time, there's your good soap opera that you've been following for so long. Na ndio imekuja hiyo time and it's almost ending kwa climax. So a reasonable side of the mind will put aside the soap opera and the movie you're loving so much and concentrate on your books, read for the sake of the exams. Wise mind. Wise mind. Now, this creates the balance now. This creates the balance. A mentally upright person, by any cost, is supposed to be using their wise mind to make decisions. So, wise mind is the balance between emotional and reasonable mind. An example, you feel hurt after an argument. Emotionally, when you feel hurt, you will start off an argument. Mtu amekukosea, unaanza wewe sasa, mnaanza kurushana maneno, hata paka mnaenda kufight. If you use reasonable side of the mind, you will think how to fix it calmly without causing chaos. Now, when the wise mind comes in, when it brings balance, you say, we've had an argument. She has hurt me. The reasonable side of the brain of the mind tells you, you need to think of how to solve this problem and talk it out. But the wise part of the mind tells you now you are too angry. You are too mad at them. Yes, you've reasoned very well. You need to find a solution, sit down and talk about it. But give yourself time. Go calm down, relax, then find them, then talk it out. That's the reasonable part of the brain. So a normal human being, a mentally stable human being, ought to, at any point in conflict resolutions, in problem solvings, and in decision making, you must, it's a requirement, you're supposed to always listen to your wise mind, and not your emotional mind or reasonable mind. Let me mention some few more examples before we jump into something else small. I'll just touch it, then we finish. A few more examples. Example number one, another, in an emotional mind, in a disagreement with your partner, this is an emotional mind thinking. In a disagreement with your partner, you lash out at them, shut down, tell them shut down, or wallow in hopelessness. The same scenario, in a reasonable mind, you are in a disagreement with your partner, you push away your emotions and just state the facts of the situation. Then in the wise mind, same situation, you're in a disagreement with your partner, you recognize how you feel, you indeed recognize that you had a disagreement and you're feeling so bad about it. Ask how they feel. You go ahead and ask them how they feel. Then try to solve the problem. That's a wise mind. The last example, after you lose your job, you isolate for weeks and tell yourself you will never find another job. That's an emotional mind speaking. You lose your job and you tell yourself, you speak to yourself, you say, mimi, hata kuna watu wakusoma lakini wanaishi tu. Si lazima mtu afanye kazi ati ameajiriwa ndiye survive. Unaanza kusema nasi hata ndege wa angani hawalimi na wapandi lakini wanafanya nini? Wanakula. Emotional mind. So in a reasonable mind, after you lose your job, you pretend you don't feel upset and immediately dive into a new job search. Yani, unaona kama nasema, if God closes another door, I know He will open another one. Nasema, it was nice time, let me look for another opportunity. Before even giving yourself time to heal and maybe find the reason. Sometimes, we lose jobs. In your own thinking, you think maybe it was their problem. But indeed, if you sit down, if you let your wise mind to sit down, to let you sit down and internalize maybe the circumstance how it was, maybe you could be the one who had a mistake. And for you diving into searching another job and getting it and starting it, you might transfer the same problems you had it from your previous job to the one you're having currently. And now, so a wise mind says, after you lose your job, you let yourself feel sad and upset before starting a new job, then search. That is the healing process now. So I implore you this afternoon that in whatever decision you make in life, in whatever things you do, ensure you use your wise mind to make decision. And if you see you making emotional decision without letting your wise mind to dictate everything, then be rest assured that you're having a problem and you need to seek medical or psychological support. Let me touch something small on ADHD. I want to touch as I wind up. Then I'll invite one or two questions, then we finish. Just want to touch something small on ADHD. ADHD.